Welcome to the Explainer. When most of us think about human DNA, we probably picture this dense, boring textbook of chemical codes, right? Well, today, we are going to completely reframe that. Because what's operating inside your body right this second isn't some dry manual. It's actually an epic, absolutely mind-blowing storybook. And to truly understand our own biology, we just need to learn how to read it. So, according to this really fascinating academic study on the 3-minute thesis competition, or 3MT for short, science communication is kind of broken when it relies strictly on traditional academia. I mean, think about it. Traditional academic papers are incredibly heavy on the jargon. They totally isolate science from the general public and make these complex ideas feel just impenetrable. But, and here's the cool part, the study found that science becomes genuinely captivating when researchers drop all that heavy jargon and use accessible storytelling instead. When we frame raw data as a narrative, as human beings, we just instantly connect with it. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our agenda for today. First, we'll look at the art of science stories. Then, we'll explore Shape 1, Discovery. Next is Shape 2, Rescue. After that, Shape 3, Mystery. And finally, we'll wrap up with our genetic storybook.
All right, Section 1, The Art of Science Stories, Framing the Blueprint of Life. So the 3MT study actually identified 3 core story shapes that we implicitly understand as humans. First up is discovery, which is basically asking questions to uncover awe-inspiring answers. Second is rescue. That's science in service to society, solving major challenges. And third is mystery, those unexplained phenomena that just leave us desperately searching for the truth. Today we're going to map these exact 3 shapes directly onto real, completely mind-bending genetic phenomena. Moving right along to Section 2, Shape 1, Discovery, the hidden capabilities of your DNA. 460 exabytes. Seriously, let that number sink in for a second. MIT researchers have figured out that just 1 single gram of DNA is theoretically capable of holding 460 exabytes of digital data. Just to put that into perspective, that is way more data than Google, Facebook, and literally all the other major tech companies hold combined in 1 gram. This just brilliantly illustrates how insanely efficient our biology actually is. By 2023, the entire globe's digital data totaled roughly 50 trillion gigabytes. Well, all of that, literally every photo you've ever taken, every text message, every single database on Earth, could be crammed into just 90 grams of DNA. Now, you might be wondering, how does that even work? Well, digital storage systems use binary code, right? Zeros and ones. Scientists realized they could take that exact same information and encode it using the 4 nucleotides that make up our genetic code, A, T, G, and C. They basically swapped binary for biology, and suddenly humanity's entire digital footprint fits right in the palm of your hand. But discovery isn't just about cool future tech, it's also about our deeply weird evolutionary past. Take a look at this. Nearly half of the human genome is actually made up of things called transposable elements. Now, for the longest time, scientists just dismissed this stuff as useless junk DNA. But as it turns out, these elements actually originated from ancient, long-extinct viruses. These viruses infected our ancestors millions of years ago, got stuck in our DNA, and just never left. So yeah, you are, quite literally, part virus. And the craziest part? They aren't just taking up space in there. Researchers over at Kyoto University made an absolutely incredible discovery. They found that a specific family of these ancient viral fragments, which they call MER11, actually evolved to act like tiny genetic switches. They are regulating our gene expression, turning other genes on and off during early human development. So what we used to dismiss as junk is actually actively shaping what makes us human. It's like a secret code hiding in plain sight.
Which brings us to Section 3, Shape 2, Rescue, the human impact of genetic sequencing.
Okay, this is where we step out of the laboratory and look at the real deeply human impact of decoding DNA. Because when we decode the genome, we're not just crunching data, we're finding real solutions that save human lives. Take the story of young Harrison, which was shared by the Rare Genomics Institute. For the very first 4 years of his life, this poor kid suffered from an exhausting, completely undiagnosed muscular disease. His family was understandably desperate. But then they partnered with the Institute, who facilitated this process called exome sequencing at Scripps. That sequencing stripped away all the mystery and pinpointed a tiny genetic typo. It was a 1 in 500,000 subtype of congenital myasthenic syndrome. And because they finally knew his exact genetic makeup, doctors could prescribe a targeted treatment. And the cure? It was just simple albuterol syrup. It radically restored Harrison's energy and completely transformed his life.
And this concept builds into an even more complex, emotional family dynamic. The Nelson family had a 13-year-old son named Luke, who unfortunately suffered irreversible deterioration from a mystery illness. So, when their second son, Clay, started showing similar early symptoms, they were absolutely terrified. But through whole genome sequencing, they finally got an answer. It was an extremely rare mutation causing something called ART syndrome. Here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. While the sequencing couldn't reverse the damage that was already done to 13-year-old Luke, it completely rescued 2-year-old Clay. Because he was diagnosed at just 2 years old, doctors were able to intervene early, slow down his deterioration, and vastly improve his quality of life. I mean, that is the ultimate story of scientific rescue, right there.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Shape 3, Mystery, the bizarre anomalies in our code.
Sometimes, though, that perfectly organized blueprint of your DNA accidentally flips the wrong switch, and the result? Something called a teratoma. This word literally translates to monster tumor in Greek, and it is wild. These happen when your body suddenly follows the instructions to, say, build a tooth, or grow hair, or form bone, but it does it in completely the wrong part of the body. You can literally have a tumor with actual teeth growing inside of it, all simply because a genetic switch accidentally fired in the wrong chapter of your biological manual.
Or consider the bizarre phenomenon of human chimerism. Imagine for a second taking a government DNA test and being told straight up that you aren't the biological mother of the children you physically gave birth to. No way, right? But that actually happened to a woman named Lydia Fairchild. How on earth is that possible? Well, when Lydia was in the womb, she absorbed her own twin, so she grew up as a single person, but her skin and blood had one set of DNA, while her reproductive organs had a completely different set. She was literally her own twin, walking around with two totally different genetic identities.
And these mysteries, they aren't just structural, they are historical. We used to think that our life experiences just died with us, but the field of epigenetics tells a very different story. You can think of epigenetics as little chemical sticky notes attached to your DNA. When populations endured severe trauma, like the Dutch famine of 1944, for example, their bodies added sticky notes basically saying, hey, food is extremely scarce, store every single calorie. The deeply mysterious part, those sticky notes were passed down. Today, the grandchildren of those famine survivors inherit metabolic profiles that actually predispose them to health issues. We are literally carrying the ghost of our ancestors' trauma right there in our code.
And the mysteries just keep piling up. Get this, 1 in 50 people have experienced something called chromothrepsis. That's where a chromosome just randomly shatters into pieces and then awkwardly tapes itself back together. Or how about the fact that 10% of our genes are what scientists call orphan genes? They just popped into existence from nowhere, with absolutely no evolutionary relatives. Oh, and we also have these regions of DNA that suddenly mutated rapidly to give us our massive brains. And to this day, scientists still don't fully understand what triggered any of these sudden massive leaps.
But perhaps the most unsettling mystery of all is the concept of genetic trade-offs, which scientists call antagonistic pleiotropy. It's like nature is playing this twisted game of risk and reward. For instance, if you inherit one copy of the sickle cell gene, it's actually a massive benefit. You become highly resistant to malaria. Awesome, right? But if you inherit 2 copies of that exact same gene, you suffer a severe, life-threatening blood disorder. It's a gift with one hand and a curse with the other, and it makes the whole idea of casually editing our DNA incredibly risky, because we just never really know what vital protection we might accidentally be deleting.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, our genetic storybook. Reading the final page. That 3MT storytelling study we talked about earlier, it noted that science in service to society operates on the core tenet that the research outcomes should be solutions to significant challenges. And that is so true. When we finally drop all that heavy academic jargon and start viewing our DNA through these human lenses of discovery, rescue, and mystery, we really empower ourselves. We stop seeing biology as just some confusing textbook. Instead, we start seeing it for what it truly is, an awe-inspiring, deeply human narrative that actually holds the solutions to our absolute greatest medical challenges.
So, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. If the code running your body right this very second is this wild patchwork story, made up of ancient extinct viruses, occasionally absorbed twins, shattered chromosomes, and the inherited chemical memories of your ancestors' survival, then who is the real author? It's a mystery hiding inside every single cell of your body. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and hey, keep questioning that incredible story inside of you.